So I've had some pretty extensive playtime with Menas. I know we're moving like we're unemployed out here. Now I have a pretty good understanding of how this unit works, where you can use her, some of the cool tech and stuff you can do as well, along with many other things we'll talk about in this video. I'm going to assume that if you're watching this, you already have Menas or have an idea of what she maybe does. But if you don't, let's run through her entire kit very quick. The skill is able to give you arts. The art itself gives you a overtime art gauge buff to the entire team. This has two different art gen typings. The all allies art gen is type B, but the fire allies art gen is type D. This is another big part of her entire kit, where every time you use an art, true art, or super art, you reset one of your equips. On the art though, you can only reset your support or heal equip once, and this activates as soon as you use the art. You cannot choose. The true art is able to reduce physical res. If the enemy is not a human, god, or demon, you get even more physical res down. And for this one, you refresh your own defense equip CTs. And then the super art is just a massive nuke that's able to refresh your physical equip if your super art has been used an odd number of times during a quest. As for her passives, she has a few that really makes her her. The first one is being able to buff up her own crit rate when she's not in a stats element, and she gives herself more crit damage based on how high her remaining HP is. She also has the ratio passive that's able to buff up her own damage, and she has good condition art gauge where she's able to get even more arts gen as long as she's above a high HP threshold, which for this unit, because of her passive and everything else, you're going to want to make sure that Menas is as healthy as possible during all of your runs that you use her in. Now that's enough of the boring stuff. Gameplay. This unit shits out damage. I'm talking about tons and tons of DPS. It doesn't matter which boss you even are fighting against. Even if you're not able to get the massive physical res down on the enemy with the true art, you have so much built-in damage buffs that she's just going crazy no matter what. Also, one thing to note as well is that against multiple different bosses in this game, you do get countered. If you are a human, god, demon, you guys know the entire stick. But since Menas is a spirit, she doesn't really ever get countered when it comes to these bosses. You can freely use her in any of the boss fights. I've been running through the mines currently with her and using her in certain fights like Geo's Agnes and stuff like that, and she has been doing absolute wonders in all of them. The main thing you have to look out for though whenever you're thinking about taking her into a fight or building a team around her is her art gen typing, and then everything else is just kind of basic team building stuff. Since she has a type B art gen on the art and a type D, that's two different art gen types that you don't want on your team. Or you just have to face the fact that you're not going to be using Menas as an arts gener, so you don't even have to worry about this. Like for an example, a very popular character is Uppy's Roy. Overall, these two characters are great, but if you use Uppy's Roy, just know that you're not going to have the arts gen from Menas. These are some of the things you have to think about and be like, well, do I really need it or do I not? Because if you take that away, then Menas becomes a lot more of just this damage dealing character and not really more of this kind of support DPS hybrid. And since we're on the topic of team building, let's talk about some of her best teams. If we're not using her on mono fire, which by the way, I highly recommend using this girl on mono fire. She is going to be fantastic with so many different characters. You could always use Shiro Emiya, Beta, any of those characters with this unit and they will be great. Just another archer of some kind to help Menas. You can go two archers if you want to, or you can go just one archer and let Menas be another one on the team. Either way, whichever one you pick, just make sure you have a way to protect Menas or heal her if she ever gets low on HP. But hold on, let me talk about her biggest gimmick, right? Equip resetting. If we look at all of her equip slots, there's two equip slots that you're able to kind of abuse this mechanic with. Technically all of them, but I would say two, at least if we're talking about damage. For the 5-star physical, if you're able to take Menas up to LB6, you can start throwing on the Grand Crusade equips on her, like the claws for an example, that give you tons of stackable fire damage up. Menas instantly has like around 300% damage. Of course, it could be lower depending on how well you rolled your equip, right? And that is one of the best things that you can do for Menas. Anytime that you can see an equip that gives you more damage and you're able to stack it, or it's able to apply some type of debuff on the enemy and you're able to stack. Stacking equips are key here when you want to look at the physical items. I know some people may ask, what about her true weapon? And I think her true weapon is overall fantastic, especially if you're doing a lot more multiplayer stuff with her. They're going to be a bit shorter, right? You want that additional 200 arc gauge, and you may not need all that additional damage. However, if you are doing stuff solo and you're able to set up the teams, you're able to control the run a bit more, that's where I would highly recommend looking into the 6-star equips like the claws from Grand Crusade, or even waiting until we get the Christmas item, which is probably not going to be till the end of this year, but there is a 6-star first summonable Christmas equip, which is pretty much the claws from Grand Crusade. However, if you don't want to get the claws from Grand Crusade, you can just summon them there, and there you go. You have another fire damage stacking item. The support slot is another item where you're able to look for those stacking damage equips. I don't actually know if there's one for spirits out yet, but if there is and you have it, then definitely use that on Menas. It's going to increase her damage. One of the ones that may be hard to see immediate value in is the 5-star defense slot, especially if you're not doing harder content. You're gonna be like, what's the point of resetting this half the time? A lot of defense items are able to stay up for, let's say, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever the case may be. On items like these that are able to last for 20 seconds or 30 seconds, being able to pump the defense item, and then for its duration, you have that massive amount of damage res. Now, once you get closer to the end of that duration, you can use Menas' Shoe Art to reset that equip and have pretty much 100% uptime. And mind you, you can do this 2 times during a quest. So as long as you're being a bit mindful of it, theoretically, if a quest lasts, let's say, for a minute and 30 seconds, and you have a 5-star defense equip that has a 30-second duration, well, ladies and gentlemen, you're able to have that up for the entire quest thanks to Menas. I think this is where the biggest skill gap comes in for Menas, and I know it's kind of crazy to say because we're playing GS here, but listen, this is where the skill curve comes in, is knowing when to reset your equips and being able to formulate a team or a strategy around this mechanic. This is going to make or break your opinion on Menas because her damage may be really good and her support may be pretty solid. But if you're not able to make use of the equip slot resetting, you may think she's just a bit lackluster compared to other options. I want to compare this unit a little bit to Star God. How I've always said that Star God is extremely good. The main issue with Star God, though, is that you need good equips in order to see her true value. I think this is even more apparent for Menas. In terms of anything that I saw that were glaring weaknesses where I'm like, okay, I don't want to use Menas, mainly anything that counters physical damage or critical damage. Like Redacne in the Mines is completely immune to crits, so if you brain Menas there, she just does 1 damage. But that's all I have to say about Menas. In terms of where I would rank her on my personal tier list, I would put her in the A tier, mainly just because this character has 2 different archgen types, which may be a bit too much to handle, and the fact that she is extremely reliant on you having some pretty good equips in order to make her work. However, if you have like the best in-slot Menas, I'm talking about the claws from Grand Crusade to give her tons of fire damage ups. I'm talking about the best defense items, the best support equips. I would easily put Menas in S tier, but just because she's not the easiest character to use, that's why she's going in the A tier. Either way though, you guys let me know down below in the comment section how you all feel about Menas. Do you like her? Do you not? Is she kind of whatever? Let me know all that type of stuff down below. And if you were lucky enough to actually get her, can we please stop putting new debut characters that people actually want in the All-Star Summons? Good lord. The All-Star Summons is the worst banner type in this entire game. Either way though, that's gonna be it for this one. Thank you all again, and last but not least, you guys already know, don't forget to drink water.